Hey there folks, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you guys are here for another fun video. I am Katie and we are counting down my favorite holiday movies. So today we are going to be talking about childhood favorites, and this is part 3 of my 4-part series. So I have got 10 movies for you today, and these are all movies that I watched ever since I was young, and I just really truly connected to them, and they have stayed with me my whole life. So we're going to get into it a little bit, why each one of them means so much to me. But let's go ahead and start the countdown with my number 10 pick. And this is the first of 3 Rankin Bass films. So I absolutely loved the Rankin Bass series when I was a kid. So there were so many holiday movies they came out with. And this first one is, I don't remember a time in my life where I didn't watch this film. It is just so wonderful. I think it originally originated back in the 60s, and it's absolutely timeless. So number 10 on my list is this Santa Claus is Coming to Town. So this movie kind of has everything, you know. It's got this beautiful stop motion animation that Rankin Bass is kind of renowned for, and they have beautiful songs, a beautiful storyline, and it really dives into the story of Santa Claus. So it starts the movie kind of like in a real life situation. We're seeing newspaper bulletins kind of flying under the screen, and then we're hearing the voices of children, and we're getting little glimpses of their letters to Santa Claus. And so, you know, we have questions from the kids like, Santa Claus, why do you have a beard? Santa Claus, why do you come down the chimney? Santa Claus, why do you only come out on Christmas Eve? You know, all these questions the kids have, and every single one of these questions gets answered. And so from that point, we are kind of transferred over to our narrator for the story, and he walks us through the origins of Santa Claus. You know, he starts out his life kind of in a sad way. He's left on a doorstep, and he finds his way to a family called the Kringles, who lovingly bring him in. They call him Chris, and so that's our first inkling. So that's why his name is Kris Kringle. And so he grows up in this family, and they're like a family of elves. They're all, you know, little people that just love making toys. And so he decides that he's going to take his love for building toys, and he wants to give them away to children in a nearby town. But when he arrives at the town, he finds out that the mayor, or the leader of the town, his name is Burgermeister Meisterburger, truly. And he vetoes the idea of toys. Like, he doesn't like toys, and so nobody should like toys. And so he makes a proclamation that no one in town should have toys. Well, Kris Kringle's like, that doesn't work for me. There are plenty of kids in your town, and they definitely deserve toys. So it kind of starts the ball rolling on why Santa Claus makes toys to begin with. And so then they're having more and more stipulations put on the toys, and trying to crack down on how the toys are getting to the kids. And so, you know, he finds ways of coming down the chimney and sticking toys in these kids' stockings. And so, you know, you get little pieces of the whole Santa Claus story. And I think it's so wonderful. All of the songs are absolutely timeless, and I can watch that movie any time of year, really. I mean, I can put it on in May and enjoy it, but there is something so special about, you know, the beginning of the holiday season, and I always start it with the Santa Claus Coming to Town. So that's number 10 on my list. Number 9 on my list is another Rankin Bass stop motion animation film. And this one is, I think, a little bit more popular than Santa Claus is Coming to Town for some reason. Probably because it's got a song written about it, but then so does Santa Claus Coming to Town. So I guess I don't really know. But number 9 on my list is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So again, with this beautiful stop motion animation, you have a beautiful story. It is an origin story of Rudolph, you know, how he came to be, his birth, his shunning from all of his fellow reindeer because he's different than everybody else. And I think that's kind of like a cautionary tale, you know, for kids seeing this film, seeing that you can be different, but everybody has a place. Everyone is important. And so they kind of do a brilliant job of kicking him while he's down, but really showcasing how beautifully he can come back and be the hero at the end. So I love all of the characters in this film. You know, we have a narrator at the beginning, and it's narrated by Frosty the Snowman. And so he kind of takes us through the whole story, you know, with his parents. And then when he runs away from home, he meets, you know, Yukon Cornelius. He meets Herbie, the elf that does not want to make toys. He wants to be a dentist. He meets the Island of Misfit Toys. He meets all these wonderful characters, and they helped to develop who he becomes. I just think it's a beautiful story. Beautiful songs. You know, there's always tomorrow. The Rudolph song. I absolutely love it. And the Santa Claus's voice in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is Santa Claus to me. He is that quintessential Santa Claus voice, you know, like when you hear full power, and when he's talking to Mrs. Claus and she says how nobody wants a skinny Santa. Like, that whole scene is priceless. My sister and I used to quote that to each other all the time. Nobody wants a skinny Santa. Eat, Papa, eat. You know, we love that movie. And so, like I said, that's another one just like Santa Claus is Coming to Town, where it's been in my life forever. I don't remember a Christmas where it wasn't a part of it. So absolutely love it. Absolutely love Rankin and Bass. So like I said, that's number 2 of my Rankin Bass trilogy. So a third film will be coming up here in just a couple minutes. But let's go ahead and move on to my number 8 on my list. And number 8 is a movie that came out back in the 90s, and it is called The Santa Claus, and it stars Tim Allen. And this is a story about a very unlikable character. You know, he's a grump for all intents and purposes. Scott Calvin is not a likable character. He is a jerk that's basically in his own head all the time. He doesn't have time for his kid, you know, and when he does have to spend time with him, he kind of pushes him off because work is more important than his son is. You know, he lost his wife because he had this kind of a mentality, and she's since moved on and remarried. And so you kind of really wonder at the beginning where this movie's going to go, because I remember even being a kid, I went and saw this in the theaters, and I remember sitting there watching Scott Calvin and going, is this going to be Santa Claus? I don't like him at all, you know, like he just did not have a redeemable quality at all about him. And so as the movie progresses, and the instant where he becomes Santa Claus because he puts on the suit, you know, he hears Santa Claus on the roof, they go out, they startle Santa Claus, he falls off the roof and dies. And so he falls off the roof, he disappears out of the suit, and the suit's just laying in the snow. There's a little card in the suit that says, put on the jacket, the reindeer will know what to do. Scott Calvin puts the jacket on, and now he is Santa Claus. He did not read the whole card. There was a tiny little clause on it that says, if you put on the suit, you are now Santa Claus. So he fights it. You know, he doesn't want to become Santa Claus. He's got other things to do. He's got a life, and he, you know, thinks that he's much more important than this character of Santa Claus. But then they get whisked off to the North Pole. You meet all of the characters up there, and it's just a really delightful story, you know, about watching this cold-hearted, uncaring man find the spirit of Christmas, you know, in a way that you don't really expect him to, you know, because you kind of think that he's going to be in his head the whole time. But that moment where he turns into a caring father, that was the part where I was like, okay, all right, I can get behind this movie now. And so watching it ever since then, I watched it every Christmas season, and I really, really love it. But I do love the idea of this unlikable character having this complete 180 change midway through, and then really working to gain your love. And by the end of that movie, I just absolutely love our new Santa Claus. Suffice it to say, this is the only Santa Claus on my list from that series. I know there were 3 movies in the Santa Claus trilogy, but this is the only one on my list because I didn't really watch the other 2. They they came out. I must have missed them for whatever reason. I didn't go to the theater to see them. And so they did not become like canon in my Christmas theme. So I've seen them half a dozen times over the years because they've been on, Freeform or other channels. But I don't have as much of an affinity to those as I do the first Santa Claus movie. So number 8 on my list is the first Santa Claus. Number 7 on my list is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So I want to first give a big shout out to the new version. Well, not the new version, the 90s version, because the new version has Benedict Cumberbatch in it, and that's cute that they did for what was it, DreamWorks, I think, put that one out. I did see it, and I did think it was cute, but I have no attachment to that one. It was an enjoyable movie, but if I don't ever see it again, it's okay. The Jim Carrey version, however, of How the Grinch Stole Christmas is so damn funny. I love it so much. And I guess I'm shamefaced because I should have put it on my new holiday classics films, but I don't know. It just feels like it belongs on a childhood favorites list, but it wasn't my childhood that I watched it. I was in my teens by the time this movie came out. I think I was like a freshman in high school, maybe. I think it came out in like 99. So I wasn't a kid watching this. So technically I cannot consider it a childhood favorite, but I did watch it with my little brother, who is 10 years younger than I am. So if I was like 15 or so when this came out, my brother was like 5. And so watching this movie with him being a child, and he just loved the hell out of this movie. He would quote it all the time. The part where he's reading the phone book and saying how much he hates these people. My brother Edison would run around the house and he would go down his list. And he had it memorized. So word for word, he was saying this movie. And so I have such a love for this movie because I have that connection. I think that if I would have just been a teenager and gone to see the movie, it would have been funny, but having that little added bonus of my little brother, reading down the list, or, I can't cancel that again. Or he'd be talking about, the part at the post office where he's putting in all of this stuff. This goes here and now it's there, and this is his and now it's hers. And all this stuff coming out of a 5-year-old is just hilarious. So if you have kids, I definitely recommend that you let them watch the Jim Carrey version, because they will love it, because it's hilarious, and then you'll have a newfound respect for that movie. But suffice it to say, it's not on this list because technically it doesn't really fit for this list. But I did want to mention it because I do love it so much. But the Grinch on my list is, of course, the original classic cartoon with Boris Karloff, as our Grinch Supreme, and he also plays the narrator. And then you have these brilliant songs, sung by Thurl Ravencroft, and they're just so good. It is that movie. It's a half an hour long. You can press play and get a couple presents wrapped while you kind of listen to it, because you really don't need to watch it to really appreciate this film. There are so many things going on in the background, so many sights and sounds and songs, and I just absolutely love the Grinch. The Grinch is technically supposed to be a character that is unlikable, but from the start, I've liked the Grinch. I think that he is a product of what's happened to him. And in the Jim Carrey version, they really show you why he is the way he is. Ron Howard, his vision for that movie was brilliant. It is so funny. It is so clever. But I'm not talking about that version. I digress. We're going back to the cartoon version. But I do like the way that they really give you a background of the Grinch, why he is the way he is. Society made him that way. He was different, just like Rudolph. He's different, but instead of trying to find a way to appease everybody the way Rudolph does, the Grinch kind of recedes into his, mountaintop hideaway. And so he becomes this character that people are afraid of, that people don't understand. And so I just really love the character. I think that the Grinch is so underrated because, you know, a lot of people watch that movie and I don't think they really get that this guy's been through it, you know? Like, he has been made fun of for being different, and he doesn't fit with the other Who's in Whoville. I mean, because he very clearly does not look like anybody else in town. And so I just really love the story. And again, can we just talk about how it's Boris Karloff performing this brilliant Dr. Seuss book? It's so good. I know you already know how much I love Boris Karloff because of my love for Frankenstein, but I just, that's a huge heart tugger for me. You know, as soon as I hear Boris Karloff's voice, it is just magical. So that is why it is on my list, and it's at number 7. So number 6 on my list is the third in my Rankin and Bass trilogy. And this one is not a stop animation. This is an actual animation, but they are drawn to resemble a stop motion animation film. So this is a movie that I find a lot of people don't remember. I was talking to my sister the other day and I was like, hey, do you remember The Stingiest Man in Town? And she was like, no. I was like, that movie with the song, and I started singing one of the songs, and she goes, oh yeah, that movie. Like, she didn't remember it, but as soon as I started singing one of the songs, then she remembered it. So I don't know if that's the case, where maybe people saw this when they were a kid and they just didn't really either relate to it or didn't care about it, but The Stingiest Man in Town is a take on the Christmas Carol story. So it was actually like I think it was a Broadway play initially. And then this cartoon was based off of the play, and it stars Walter Matthau playing Scrooge. And oh my God, why didn't they have a live action version of Walter Matthau playing Scrooge? Because he was like the embodiment of Scrooge. I mean, like, he's so good. And I love this story. So like I said, it is the classic Christmas Carol tale, and they kind of have all the characters are represented. The Marley character in this one is really quite creepy, and I really love that about this movie because, you know, in other iterations, Marley is kind of a comical character, and he was a bad guy in life, you know what I mean? And so when Scrooge sees Marley for the first time, when he like morphs from the door knocker, it is terrifying, and I've always remembered that face. And so I remember there was a couple years time where I couldn't remember the name of this movie, and I just remembered that horrifying door knocker, and I was like, which movie is it? Because all of the other iterations, it's not the same. I can't remember. So I found it maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it was on YouTube, and then it disappeared off of YouTube. There's like different clips and stuff that you can watch, but the whole movie's gone. So this is the one. I had to find it. Somebody uploaded it to Facebook. God bless them. So I Googled The Stingiest Man in Town, and I found somebody had posted it to maybe like an open group. And so I was able to watch it again through this group. And it is just, like I said, it is so good. Definitely you should check it out. The songs in this movie are absolutely wonderful. And like I said, it stuck with me my whole life. And I still think it's so amusing that my sister, who, you know, we both grew up watching the same movies, and she doesn't remember this one the way I do. So I don't know, maybe it just didn't resonate with her as much as it did with me. But Walter Matthau playing Scrooge, it's so awesome. I love it so much. So that is why it has made my list at number 6. So number 5 on my list, I may get made fun of for this one, and I don't care. So this one is a kind of a classic kind of film in that you had to be of the age to really appreciate this one. But this is Ernest Saves Christmas. So if you're like me, you were an 80s kid, and you watched Ernest Goes to Camp and Ernest Goes to Jail and all of these other Ernest P. Worrell films, my personal favorite, of course, is Ernest Scared Stupid for obvious reasons. But Ernest Saves Christmas is a fabulous movie. So you get your classic Ernest, you know, played by the incredible Jim Varney. Oh my gosh, he made my childhood. There were so many moments in my life that were made because of those films. But he plays his quintessential Ernest character, you know, when everybody else is available. Bobby is there, and you get this new cast of characters. You get a Santa Claus, and you get this character who he kind of works at like a, not like a PBS, but like a public access type of channel. He is kind of a down and out actor. And so he is kind of picked to be the next Santa Claus. And so Ernest is trying to get this guy on board with becoming Santa Claus. And then there's a side story where Santa Claus's bag of presents gets stolen by a runaway girl. And so it's her kind of ushering back into the storyline how she starts off as this troubled kid, and then she ends up helping to save Christmas in the process of everybody getting together. And it's a really wonderful story. It's a typical Ernest movie, so you've got your slapsticky, kooky, crazy moments, but it's also got a lot of heart to it. You know, I think the added elements of the Christmas season bring a special little flair to it, but it's just such a really, really beautiful film. So I definitely recommend that you check out Ernest Scared, not Ernest Scared Stupid, Ernest Saves Christmas. See, I got Ernest Scared Stupid in my head. And my oven is beeping because I have orange slices in there. So I'm gonna put this on a pause. I'm gonna go take care of that, and I'll be right back. Hey guys, sorry about the delay. So I also got a package in the mail I wanted to pick up too. So where was I in the story? Oh, we're talking about Ernest Saves Christmas. So, like I said, suffice it to say, it is a beautiful story about a really goofy guy that's just trying to do the right thing. And I love Ernest so much. So, that's why it's number 5 on my list, Ernest Saves Christmas. So, number 4 on my list and number 3 on my list could be interchanged at any moment. And, you're going to see why here when I tell you what they are. It's Home Alone 2 and Home Alone 1. So right now I have it listed as number 4 is Home Alone 1 and number 3 is Home Alone 2 because there's so many things about these movies that they kind of come up, one above the other for different reasons at different times in my life. I really love so many things about them, and it's really hard. It's really hard to put one over top of the other. If you've seen these movies, I'm sure you understand there are different elements about both of these movies that are just really great. You know, the first movie is so iconic. You know, you get that first instance where Kevin is alone and he has to kind of fend for himself and figure out what the heck to do when you're left home as an 8-year-old kid. You know, you've got food to buy, so he has to go to the grocery store and buy food. He has to make himself dinner. He has to take care of himself. He has to, kind of navigate once these jewel thieves come around and are going to try and ruin his holiday. And so you really get that first inkling of the badass that Kevin McAllister is. And so I love those aspects of that movie. I love the storyline with the next door neighbor, the elderly gentleman that, Kevin's always been told is this crazy, creepy old man who puts bodies in his rock salt, and he's just mean and uncaring. And so then he gets a moment where he gets to meet this elderly man at church and finds out that he is in fact a very good man who has had kind of a hard life, And so I love that storyline. And much like in Home Alone 2, where he meets the pigeon lady, and he sees that this woman has had a hard life too, but she's a very good person too. So I loved those two elements of both of these films. And so that's kind of like what was putting me one against the other were those two other side characters, because I just really, really love them. But I put Home Alone 2 as number 3 just because I really loved I love the setting. I love that they have gone to New York, that Kevin is put in a situation where he gets to stay, at this big fancy hotel, and because he's got the Talkboy tape recorder, he's able to kind of weasel his way into this nice suite at the hotel. And then he's walking around New York City like he owns the place. He had such confidence, and I always remember being a kid and watching these movies and going, man, if this was me, I would curl up in a ball and I would wait at the freaking airport until my parents came and got me. I don't know if I could have been Kevin. I don't know if I could have been like, oh, we're in New York. I was supposed to be in Florida. Well, here we go, and he would just do something so off the wall, and it was always a redeemable, wonderful thing. So I always give Kevin credit for being on top of things. He was very ingenious in the way he did things. All of his traps were so epically awesome. And I like in Home Alone 2, where he's staying at his uncle's place that's being renovated, and so he's got another opportunity to make these incredible traps. So, like I said, 4 and 3 are interchangeable. I love them both, and I think that Macaulay Culkin was just brilliant beyond words in these movies. So I give so much love to the Home Alone franchise. So just those 2, though. Any of the other ones are garbage. If it doesn't have Macaulay Culkin in it, I'm not interested. So just those 2. I love them both. So let's move on to movie number 2. And this was really hard, putting a 2 and a 1, because both of these movies in the number 2 slot and the number 1 slot are so wonderful. But the number 1 gets an edge because it's a little bit longer. But number 2 it's been around since I've been born. I've watched it my whole life. And so that was kind of a hard situation to put it at number 2 because I have so much familiarity and love for it. But I stand by my decision. So number 2 is Mickey's Christmas Carol. So if you haven't been able to tell, I've already got a Christmas story, a Christmas Carol on here with the Stingiest Man in Town. But I love A Christmas Carol. I think that it is such a brilliant story. I love all the characters. You've got Tiny Tim, and you've got Bob Cratchit, and you've got Scrooge, and you've got his nephew Fred and Fred's family, and you've got all of the ghosts. You've got Marley. I absolutely adore this story. So then to incorporate all of those Disney characters that you've loved growing up, and then to create this story with those characters. I think my sister and I were talking about this the other day too. I think Scrooge McDuck originated because of Mickey's Christmas Carol. I don't think Scrooge McDuck was in the, I may be wrong, but I don't remember him being in anything before Mickey's Christmas Carol came out. And then he became, Uncle Scrooge for DuckTales and all this stuff, but I don't remember him being around before that point. So if nothing else, they gave us Scrooge McDuck. And, you get Mickey playing this wonderful Bob Cratchit character, and you get Minnie, and then you get, Daisy Duck and Donald Duck, and all of your favorites. And then Goofy plays Marley. I mean, he plays such a goofy character. I mean, it's kind of a perfect position for him to play. And I absolutely love it. The opening song of Mickey's Christmas Carol makes me teary every time it starts, because I just know I'm going to love the rest of the next half an hour. I'm going to just absolutely love everything that goes on in this film. And I do. I mean, I've watched it hundreds of times, and each time it brings me so much love and joy. I can watch it several times throughout the Christmas season, and it never gets old. So if you've not watched Mickey's Christmas Carol, please watch that movie. I know you'll absolutely love it. If you are, a kid from the 80s like I am, who was born and raised on the Disney Channel, and who absolutely loves everything that Disney has ever given me, good and bad, I'm still a Disney kid at heart. So Mickey's Christmas Carol is just the best. But then we get to the number 1 slot. And so I'm sure you probably know what I'm going to say. I mean, if you're keeping track, we have another version of A Christmas Carol at number 1. And this is the version that came out back, I think 1993, 1990 something it came out. And this movie stars Michael Caine as Scrooge. And this is the Muppet Christmas Carol. So just like with Mickey's, you have all these iconic characters you have grown up with. Bob Cratchit is now being played by Kermit the Frog. And you've got, Mrs. Cratchit being played by Miss Piggy. And you've got, all of these beautiful characters. Beaker is incorporated in this. Rizzo the Rat is in this. Gonzo is playing Charles Dickens, and he's walking us through his entire story, and you get these incredible songs. I love this movie so much. I watch it every year, multiple times, and it just makes me so happy. And I love all of the songs. Over the years, they have taken out Belle's song for whatever reason. But if you do have the VHS copies of this, or the original DVD copies, I think there was just a widescreen version that was introduced initially. And so the song is incorporated on that. But since then, on streaming services, they take out When Love Is Gone. And I'm not too sure why. I mean, maybe because it slowed the pace down a little bit, or just made it a little bit longer. But I really think you need that song to really show the depth of, Scrooge's sadness, what he lost when he decided not to go after Belle. So it always makes me sad that they have removed that. But I've heard rumors that they are going to start incorporating it back into new release DVD or 4K, if they're going to release a 4K version of it. So that's what I'm hoping for, because I would like to get a new bright, shiny copy of it whole. You know what I mean? I think that there was a rumor that something happened to that song when they took it out, and then they lost the footage, or something strange happened. But I think that they have since recovered it, and so they've remastered it, and I'm really hoping that it shows up down the line in a new version of the Muppet Christmas Carol. But I can talk for hours about this film. I'm not going to. Suffice it to say, Michael Caine is the quintessential Scrooge. He plays that role like it was penned for him. Like Charles Dickens said, 150 or so years from now, a man is going to be born, and he will embody the soul of Ebenezer Scrooge. And he does. I mean, from beginning to end, all of the songs, you get Mr. Scrooge, and you get introduced to Michael Caine's Scrooge. And he is cantankerous and rude and uncaring and unfeeling and all of these things that Scrooge embodies. He is that character. And as it progresses, you get introduced to all of these other characters. You get Marley, who's played by Waldorf and Statler, and it's Marley and Marley. So it's Jacob and Robert Marley in the Muppet Christmas Carol version. And they are so funny, because if you know Statler and Waldorf, they are the two characters that sit up in the box and heckle people. So they are ideally placed as, the Marley character, because he was rude and unfeeling in real life, and so as ghosts they are very much the same way. And then we get all of the other ghosts. We get past, present, and future. And I love Christmas Present's ghost so much. And he is not a typical Muppet. I mean, he was kind of created for this movie. I don't know if they've ever used his design to be in any other Muppet movie. I may be wrong on that, but I don't think that I am. But he is just so lovable. He's this big, huge Muppet, that Michael Caine can walk with. He can hold on to him, and he can interact with him, at full height. He's not looking down at the character, but I just love him to pieces. And there are so many things. Like I said, I could talk all day about this movie, but every character has a very special place in my heart. Even the little rabbit character, who has to go and get the turkey for Scrooge at the end of the movie. I can't remember his name all of a sudden. I'm supposed to remember his name, but all of the Muppets. I've had love affair with the Muppets since I was a kid. You know, I mean, I grew up watching the Muppet Caper and all of these wonderful films. You know, the Muppet movie in general is wonderful, but I have to say Muppet Christmas Carol is my favorite. I really love, like I said, I love the Muppets. So Muppet Treasure Island is another favorite, but I do think that Muppet Christmas Carol is the best, the very, very best. So that, I think, is going to be my list for today. So again, we have at number 10, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Number 9, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Number 8, The Santa Claus. Number 7, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Number 6, The Stingiest Man in Town. Number 5, Ernest Saves Christmas. Number 4, Home Alone 1. Number 3, Home Alone 2. Number 2, Mickey's Christmas Carol, and number 1, The Muppet Christmas Carol. So I will see you guys in my next video. Look forward to seeing my favorite classic holiday films next. And I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. I love you guys so much. I appreciate you being here. Hit the like button if you like it. Subscribe to make sure that you get notified when that next video comes up. And I'll see all of your lovely faces in the next video.